She thought it was impossible. Then her indicator activated upon touching a human. Through the transparent dome, she could see endless stretches of green forests, winding rivers, and small clusters of human structures that seemed almost fragile in comparison to the massive machinery and cities of her homeworld. She studied the humans carefully, her sharp violet eyes scanning every movement, every subtle shift in behavior. Her species compatibility indicator, her SCI as it was called, was attached to her wrist, a device built to measure potential intelligence, threat levels, and adaptability in unknown lifeforms. Zyra's kind, the Kyler, had explored thousands of planets across the galaxy. They had cataloged countless species, studied the strongest, the fastest, the smartest. They believed in one simple rule: survival and strength defined a species' worth. Zyra had seen enormous, fast-moving predators that could crush entire cities, plants that could adapt to harsh suns, and aquatic creatures that could survive in boiling oceans. And yet she had never encountered anything that approached the strange, fragile beings she observed on this small, blue planet. Humans. She thought she understood them in theory. She had read reports from previous scout missions, had seen videos, and had analyzed the scant data available. But theory and reality were never the same. Watching a group of humans work together to lift a heavy log from the forest floor made her raise a brow. The log was clearly too heavy for one or two of them, but the humans pulled together, creating a system of ropes and leverage. Even in a small, seemingly simple act, they displayed cooperation that was rare in the galaxy. Zyra's SCI remained inactive. That device was supposed to light up at the first sign of a species capable of influencing galactic events, an intelligence, a resilience, a power that could rival other advanced civilizations. And yet, despite their cooperation, the humans' physical strength, their speed, and their technology were unimpressive. It was curious, nothing more. Zyra floated out of her pod in a small, silent hovercraft. The craft glided gently through the atmosphere, the engines barely making a sound as she approached a human settlement. The structures were small, rectangular buildings made of metal and stone. They were clearly advanced enough to harness electricity, but compared to the towering cities she had seen on other worlds, they seemed primitive. She landed quietly on the outskirts, her cloak folding around her as she stepped onto the soft soil. The humans were moving about, some tending to small gardens, others talking in pairs or small groups. Their language was a series of rapid sounds, pleasant but incomprehensible to her. Zyra watched with fascination. Every species had its rituals, its way of communicating, and yet there was something about humans that made her pause. She approached a group that seemed to be building a small structure. They lifted planks of wood and metal with care, measuring and adjusting as they went. One human, a young man with dark hair, noticed her presence and stepped forward cautiously. "Hello," he said. His voice was soft, almost hesitant. Zyra froze for a moment. Communication with new species was always risky. Even a simple word could be misinterpreted as a threat. She extended a hand, not to touch, just to indicate peace. The human tilted his head. "Are you lost?" he asked. Zyra considered him. His body language showed curiosity, not fear or aggression. This was unusual. Most species would either flee or attack when encountering an unknown life form. Humans seemed bold in their curiosity. She responded in her own language, knowing he could not understand. "I am not lost. I am studying your kind." The human frowned. "Studying." Zyra could not convey her exact meaning without revealing too much, so she simply observed. He nodded slowly and stepped back, motioning for her to move forward. Zyra followed, careful to make no sudden movements. Over the next few hours, she watched humans work, play, and interact. They had a strange mixture of fragility and persistence. One child tripped over a stone and fell. He cried for a moment but then got up and ran to catch up with his friends, laughing as though nothing had happened. Zyra's SCI remained silent. She shook her head slightly. "Impossible," she whispered to herself. No species this small, this seemingly weak, should be capable of significant resilience. The sun moved across the sky, and Zyra continued her observations. She noted the humans' use of tools, their ability to solve small problems on the spot, and their social cooperation. Each detail went into her memory banks. Her mission was clear: document, evaluate, and report. The humans seemed harmless, but she had learned never to underestimate life. As evening approached, Zyra noticed something remarkable. A group of humans was attempting to repair a broken water pump. The machinery was old, rusted, and clearly designed for more robust species. Yet the humans examined the parts carefully, improvised missing components, and slowly restored function. They worked with patience and precision, talking and laughing softly as though the challenge itself was a form of entertainment. Zyra floated closer, her curiosity growing. The humans were adaptable. Not in the way a predator adapted to a hunt or a plant adapted to survive the sun, but in a way that seemed unpredictable, flexible, and intelligent. Still, her SCI did not respond. It was designed to detect species capable of impacting civilizations. And yet she felt a strange stirring of anticipation. The night fell and the humans lit small fires. Zyra hid in the shadows, observing their rituals. They ate together, shared stories in rapid bursts of speech, and seemed content in each other's company. Their strength was not in their size or speed, but in their cooperation, creativity, and determination. She reviewed her notes, comparing humans to other species she had studied. None fit this pattern. They were fragile yet resilient, seemingly weak yet capable of problem-solving and innovation. She could not classify them easily. Zyra frowned, thinking, "They are an anomaly." Before leaving, she lingered near a human who was collecting herbs for food. He looked up suddenly, sensing her presence. Zyra froze. The human smiled and waved. Something in that simple gesture, trust, curiosity, and openness, was unlike anything she had encountered before. Zyra hesitated. She wanted to interact but feared the consequences. One touch, one mistake could trigger unknown reactions. Yet a strange feeling pushed her forward. Slowly, she reached out, just enough for her fingertips to brush against his hand. Her SCI activated. A brilliant light flashed across her wrist, illuminating the surrounding area. Zyra recoiled, startled. She had never experienced this before. No species had ever triggered the indicator upon direct contact. It was designed to respond only to highly advanced, intelligent, and adaptive life forms capable of changing the course of galactic events. And yet here it was, flashing wildly. The human blinked, unsure what had just happened. Zyra stared at her wrist, her mind racing. Could it be? Could humans, these small, fragile creatures, be more capable than she had ever imagined? The night seemed to hold its breath. Zyra's thoughts spun with possibilities. She had come expecting harmless, unremarkable creatures. Instead, she had found something that challenged everything she knew. She withdrew carefully, keeping her distance, but her curiosity burned brighter than ever. She would continue her observations, learn more about these humans, and understand why her SCI had activated. One thing was clear: this species was unlike any other she had encountered. As she floated back to her craft, Zyra realized that her mission had changed. She was no longer simply documenting a new species. She was uncovering a mystery, one that could alter the way the Kyler viewed the galaxy. And for the first time in her career, she felt a spark of excitement she had never known. The humans slept beneath the stars, unaware that an alien observer had been watching them. And Zyra, floating silently above the settlement, wondered if she had just discovered a species that could redefine the very meaning of strength. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the forests of Terra 7, casting golden light across the human settlement. Zyra hovered above in her silent craft, her mind still racing from the previous night. The memory of her SCI lighting up when she touched a human kept replaying in her mind. It was impossible, or at least, that's what she had believed. And yet there it was, undeniable proof that humans were more than they appeared. She watched as humans began their daily routines. Some carried baskets of food, while others repaired buildings, and children ran across open fields, laughing and shouting with energy she had never seen in any other species. There was a strange harmony in their chaos, a balance between freedom and cooperation. Each movement seemed small and insignificant, but when observed together, it painted a picture of resilience and adaptability that Zyra could not ignore. Zyra decided that she needed to observe more closely. She lowered her hovercraft silently and landed on the outskirts of the village. The humans were alert but not afraid, as though they had grown accustomed to strange noises from the forest or sudden movements in the sky. She kept her distance, careful not to startle them. Her SCI remained active from the previous night, though now it pulsed faintly, almost as if responding to the humans' presence in general. Zyra knew that this was a species-level reaction, a signal that they had potential far beyond their physical appearance. She adjusted her sensors to monitor their physiology, intelligence, and behavior, trying to understand why they triggered such a strong response. As she observed, one human, a young woman, walked past a fallen tree and examined it thoughtfully. She lifted a smaller branch and tried to lever it against the larger trunk, pushing and pulling in different ways. Zyra's eyes widened. In her entire career, she had never seen a species combine trial and error, logic and physical effort in such a creative way. The young woman noticed Zyra's hovering craft and froze. For a moment, her large brown eyes studied Zyra with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Then, without fear, she waved. Zyra was taken aback. In every species she had encountered, sudden exposure to an unknown life form caused panic, submission, or aggression. Humans simply acknowledged her presence and continued their work. Zyra hovered closer, lowering herself to a few meters above the ground. She activated a small translator device to attempt communication. "Greetings," Zyra said, her voice calm and measured. The human paused, tilting her head. The translator emitted a soft hum, translating the sound into understandable language. Hello," the human replied, her voice hesitant but warm. "Are you from somewhere far away?" "Yes," Zyra said, "I am an observer. I study species. I study you." The human's eyes widened slightly. "Study us? Why?" Zyra considered her words carefully. Revealing too much about her species could cause fear or distrust. "To understand, to learn about your ways, your intelligence, and your abilities." The human blinked slowly, then nodded. "I'm Mara. I help take care of this village." "What do you mean by intelligence?" Zyra hovered silently for a moment, realizing the difficulty of explaining concepts that humans had no frame of reference for. She gestured to the village and its surroundings. "Your species survives. You create solutions. You cooperate. You adapt. These are signs of intelligence, ways that your species can change your world." Mara frowned, thoughtful. "We do what we must to live, that's all." Zyra studied her closely. The simplicity of the statement belied the truth of her observation. Humans' survival was not just instinct. It involved planning, creativity, emotion, and collaboration. Zyra had never seen a species combine these traits in such a subtle, unpredictable way. For hours, she followed Mara and her group. Humans worked together to repair the village's water system, build shelters, and gather food from the forest. Each task involved improvisation, negotiation, and clever use of available resources. When a tool broke, they did not despair. They created a new one. When they encountered obstacles, they adjusted their plan, sometimes using methods that Zyra could not have predicted. Her SCI pulsed more rapidly now, tracking patterns she could not fully explain. The signal was strong, steady, and unmistakable. This species was anomalous. Zyra had observed hundreds of species, some stronger, faster, smarter, and more aggressive than humans, but none had triggered such a response in her equipment. As the sun climbed higher, Zyra decided it was time to interact more directly. She carefully descended from her craft and walked slowly toward Mara, keeping her hands visible to show no threat. Mara noticed her approach but did not step back. Instead, she raised a hand in greeting. Zyra reached out, remembering the sensation from the previous night. Her fingertips brushed Mara's hand lightly. The SCI flared instantly, stronger than before. Zyra gasped quietly. The indicator was no longer just signaling potential, it was signaling something extraordinary. Mara pulled back slightly, confused. "Are you okay?" Zyra nodded, though her mind was racing. "Yes, your touch, it confirms my observations. Your species, humans, possess qualities that are remarkable." Mara blinked. "Qualities like what?" Zyra hesitated. How could she describe what humans themselves could not yet see? "You are adaptable, you are resilient, you cooperate and innovate. Your species has potential beyond what my instruments can fully measure." Mara laughed softly, a sound that reminded Zyra of wind through the trees. "We're just people. We do what we can." Zyra could not suppress a small smile. This humility, this combination of strength and simplicity, was perhaps what made humans so unique. She realized that their power did not come from size or technology, it came from the mind and the spirit. The day passed quickly. Zyra spent hours observing humans in their daily routines, taking mental notes and analyzing behavior. She watched as a group of children built a makeshift bridge over a small stream, combining sticks, vines, and mud. It was unstable at first, but they adjusted, tested, and improved it until it held. When the bridge finally worked, they cheered, helping each other across. Zyra's SCI pulsed repeatedly, noting the problem-solving, teamwork, and determination on display. By late afternoon, Zyra felt a sense of both excitement and caution. These humans were unpredictable. They were not dangerous in a physical sense, but their adaptability and ingenuity could change the rules of engagement in the galaxy. She knew that if the Kyler learned the truth too quickly, humans could be seen as either a threat or an asset, depending on the interpretation. Zyra decided to test them further. She approached a small group repairing a damaged vehicle. She did not touch the machine, only observed. The humans examined the vehicle, discussing ideas and attempting different solutions. One human, a young man named Liam, suddenly looked up at her. "Are you helping us?" he asked, uncertain. Zyra shook her head. "I am observing." "Learning, do not worry, your work is your own." Liam frowned, then returned to the repair. But Zyra noticed something important. The humans did not shy away from her presence. They adjusted naturally, treating her as part of the environment rather than a threat. This trust and curiosity were unlike any other species she had encountered. Hours later, the vehicle was repaired. The humans tested it carefully, and when it moved successfully, they celebrated with laughter and high fives. Zyra felt a stirring in her mind, something that went beyond science. There was joy, pride, and satisfaction in their achievement, emotions that motivated them to surpass their limits. She had seen pride and joy in other species, but never coupled with such resilience and adaptability. As night fell, Zyra returned to her craft. She hovered above the village, reflecting on the day's discoveries. Her SCI had activated multiple times, each pulse confirming what she had begun to suspect. Humans were extraordinary. Small, fragile, and seemingly ordinary, yet capable of actions, thought, and collaboration that defied expectations. Her thoughts turned to the implications. If humans could adapt so quickly, learn so effectively, and work together so harmoniously, what could they achieve on a larger scale? Entire planets had fallen to other species because of predictable patterns, but humans were unpredictable. They could find solutions where others would fail. They could endure hardships that would break others. Zyra realized that her mission had shifted. She had come to Terra 7 expecting to observe a minor species, harmless and limited. Instead, she had discovered a species with potential that could reshape her understanding of life and intelligence. For the first time, Zyra felt genuine excitement and a little apprehension. She knew that the next phase of her mission would require direct interaction, careful study, and perhaps even trust. But the humans, small and seemingly ordinary, had already begun to change the way she thought about strength, resilience, and the future. The night deepened, and the village lights twinkled like stars on the ground. Zyra floated silently above, her SCI pulsing faintly, a reminder that humans were not just another species. They were something unique, unpredictable, and remarkable. And she knew that the real discovery was only just beginning. The morning air was crisp and full of the scent of wet earth and growing trees. Zyra hovered above the human settlement, her mind alive with questions. The SCI on her wrist had not stopped pulsing since her first contact with Mara and Liam. Each flash, each spike in energy, suggested there was more to humans than anyone, including her, could have predicted. Today, Zyra intended to understand why the indicator had activated. She needed to see humans in situations that would reveal their problem-solving abilities, their adaptability, and their emotional depth. From her years of observation, she knew that a species' true potential often showed under stress, when the rules were unclear, and when survival required more than brute strength. She descended quietly into the village. The humans were already busy with their daily routines. Some tended to gardens, carefully pulling weeds and tending young plants. Others repaired roofs, while a few children practiced running and climbing, testing themselves in games that seemed both playful and educational. Zyra observed Mara and Liam first. They were discussing repairs for a small windmill that provided water for the village. Mara held a metal rod, examining it carefully, while Liam adjusted a broken gear. Zyra noted the interaction. Mara suggested a solution, Liam modified it slightly, and together they tried an approach that neither had thought of alone. When it failed, they did not argue or give up. They paused, reflected, and tried again. Zyra's SCI pulsed rapidly, problem-solving under uncertainty. Adaptation through collaboration, creativity born from necessity. This was unlike any behavior she had seen in other species. Large predators relied on instinct. Highly intelligent aquatic species relied on memory and instinctive algorithms. But humans, these small, fragile beings, combined instinct, logic, and emotion in ways she could not measure with her instruments. Curious, Zyra decided to intervene in a subtle way. She projected a small, harmless barrier near the windmill, forcing Mara and Liam to adjust their plans. The humans noticed immediately. "We need another way," Mara said, glancing at Liam. They looked around, scanning their surroundings for usable tools. Liam picked up a rope, tied it creatively around the broken gear, and attached it to the windmill frame. Mara adjusted a lever, and together they applied force. Slowly, the windmill turned. Water flowed again. The humans cheered softly, high-fiving each other. Zyra's SCI pulsed violently. This was more than problem-solving. It was innovation under constraint, a quality that had always fascinated her species. For hours, she followed the humans, noting patterns in their behavior. They displayed resilience, continuing tasks despite repeated failures. They showed curiosity, constantly asking questions and experimenting with new methods. They demonstrated empathy, helping one another without hesitation. And they possessed an almost unpredictable creativity, finding solutions Zyra could not have anticipated. She realized she had underestimated them. Her initial observations, small, fragile, seemingly ordinary, had blinded her to their true potential. These humans were not merely survivors. They were adaptable, innovative, and driven in ways that could rival or even surpass species she had long considered advanced. Zyra decided to push the boundaries further. She wanted to understand the limits of human ingenuity. She selected a small group of humans, including Mara and Liam, and projected a harmless but challenging scenario. A simulated storm began to appear in the sky, its winds strong enough to threaten the village's water supply and small structures. The humans noticed immediately, but instead of panicking, they acted decisively. Mara organized a team to reinforce the windmill, while Liam and others secured buildings and cleared debris from critical areas. Zyra floated above, watching carefully. The humans worked with a combination of speed and thoughtfulness that stunned her. Every action was deliberate, yet flexible. They adapted quickly when something failed, modifying their plans on the fly. At one point, a large branch was about to fall onto a water channel. A child noticed it, shouted a warning, and the adults reacted instantly. They redirected the branch, preventing damage, all while maintaining other critical tasks. Zyra's SCI flashed continuously, nearly reaching maximum output. Resilience, problem-solving, teamwork, alertness. Adaptability. As the storm subsided, Zyra approached the group. Mara and Liam looked up, their faces covered in sweat and dirt, but they were smiling. "You helped us," Mara asked, panting slightly. "I observed," Zyra said. "You succeeded because of your own actions. Your coordination, creativity, and adaptability saved your village." Liam looked curious. "It felt like we were part of something bigger, like we could handle anything if we worked together." Zyra studied him. This feeling of confidence and empowerment born from collaboration and problem-solving was unique. Many species relied on instinct, technology, or sheer power. Humans relied on something subtler: connection, creativity, and determination. Over the next few days, Zyra continued her experiments. She observed humans in construction, cooking, medical care, and teaching. Each time, she saw patterns that confirmed her growing belief: humans were extraordinary. They could innovate under pressure, adapt to unexpected challenges, and maintain cohesion under stress. Even when mistakes occurred, they learned quickly and shared knowledge openly. Zyra also observed their emotional depth. Humans comforted one another, celebrated successes, and expressed grief openly. These emotional behaviors were not weaknesses. Rather, they fueled collaboration and creativity. Zyra realized that emotion, combined with intelligence and adaptability, made humans unpredictable and formidable in ways her species rarely encountered. She began documenting each observation, recording patterns and anomalies. The SCI continued to flash, showing that humans were indeed anomalous in the galaxy. Zyra understood the implications. If other civilizations encountered humans without understanding their resilience and ingenuity, they could underestimate them and face consequences they could not predict. One evening, Zyra followed Mara and Liam to a clearing where humans gathered for storytelling. Around a fire, they shared tales of survival, clever tricks, and past achievements. Zyra listened, fascinated by how stories transmitted knowledge, reinforced cooperation, and inspired future action. The humans' ability to learn from the past and innovate for the future was far more advanced than she had imagined. Zyra floated above the gathering, her SCI pulsing softly. She realized that her mission had changed completely. She was no longer simply observing a new species. She was studying a species that challenged the very definition of intelligence and resilience. The night deepened, and Zyra reflected on the day's events. Humans had survived and thrived without the advantages her species considered essential: massive size, natural weapons, or advanced technology. Instead, they relied on ingenuity, cooperation, and determination. The SCI confirmed what her observations suggested. Humans were extraordinary. Zyra considered the broader implications. A species this adaptable and inventive could change entire planetary systems. They could survive disasters that would destroy other civilizations. They could solve problems that seemed impossible. And most importantly, they could grow in ways no other species could predict. The realization was both exhilarating and daunting. Zyra knew she needed more direct interaction, careful study, and perhaps trust building with humans. They were unpredictable, yes, but in ways that were not dangerous, at least not intentionally. Their unpredictability was a form of power. As she returned to her craft, Zyra noted one final observation. Humans had something no other species she had studied possessed in equal measure, a desire to push boundaries, learn, and cooperate. They could fail repeatedly, yet each failure only strengthened their resolve. Each challenge became an opportunity, not a defeat. The SCI pulsed steadily, as though acknowledging Zyra's realization. Humans were no ordinary species. They were an enigma, a combination of fragility and strength, simplicity and complexity, intelligence and emotional depth. Zyra understood that the next stage of her mission would require careful engagement, but also openness to learning. Humans could teach her as much as she could teach them. Floating silently above the village, Zyra made a decision. Tomorrow, she would reveal herself more fully. She would interact directly, not just observe from the shadows, but she would do so cautiously. Humans had already proven they were capable of remarkable things, and Zyra needed to understand their potential fully before any further steps. As the night sky stretched over Terra 7, Zyra felt a mixture of excitement and anticipation. The humans slept below, unaware of the profound impact they were having on a visitor from another world. Zyra knew one thing for certain. She had discovered a species that could change the way the galaxy thought about intelligence, resilience, and potential. And she could not wait to learn more. The morning sun rose slowly over Terra 7, casting warm light on the village. Zyra hovered silently in her craft, reviewing the data she had gathered over the past days. The SCI on her wrist had been active continuously, confirming that humans were extraordinary. But observation alone was no longer enough. She needed to understand how far their abilities could reach, how they would react under pressure, and how they would adapt to unexpected challenges. Her mind raced with ideas. Other species she had studied could survive small problems, but humans were different. Their intelligence, adaptability, and emotional depth meant they could respond in ways she could not predict. She decided it was time to create controlled challenges, simulated crises that would test their resilience, problem-solving, and cooperation. Descending carefully to the outskirts of the village, Zyra observed the humans as they went about their routines. Mara and Liam were already busy, repairing a roof that had been damaged by a recent storm. Zyra approached cautiously, keeping her presence subtle. "Good morning," she said in a calm, neutral voice. Mara looked up, her brow furrowed. "You again? Are you going to watch us all day?" Zyra shook her head. "Not only watch, I wish to see how your species responds to challenges. You will face situations that are unusual but not dangerous. You must solve them using your own skills." Liam raised an eyebrow. "Unusual challenges? What kind?" Zyra hesitated. She could not fully explain the nature of her tests without revealing her species and technology. "You will see, trust your instincts and work together." The humans exchanged glances but nodded. Mara was the first to speak. "All right, let's see what you've got for us." Zyra activated a small holographic interface from her craft. A simulation of a severe storm appeared above the village. Wind whipped through the trees, and a light drizzle fell. The simulation was harmless but realistic. The wind could topple structures and disrupt water channels, testing the humans' ability to adapt. The humans noticed immediately. Children paused their play, adults gathered tools, and Mara quickly organized a team to reinforce buildings. Liam checked the windmill, assessing weaknesses that could fail under the storm. Zyra floated above, silently observing. Within minutes, the humans were working with precision and coordination. Mara assigned tasks based on skill, strength, and creativity. Liam improvised tools and reinforced weak structures. Others carried supplies, secured vulnerable areas, and communicated constantly. Every decision seemed spontaneous yet deliberate, flexible yet efficient. Zyra's SCI pulsed wildly, almost reaching maximum output. The humans were demonstrating more than problem-solving. They were thinking ahead, anticipating challenges, and adapting in real time. A sudden gust of simulated wind threatened a partially repaired roof. Mara shouted instructions, and a small group of villagers adjusted beams and ropes to stabilize it. A child noticed a loose tile and quickly tied it with a cord, showing awareness far beyond his age. Zyra watched, fascinated. Humans were not just reacting, they were predicting, learning, and teaching simultaneously. After several hours, Zyra introduced another challenge. A simulated landslide threatened the water channel supplying the village. The humans quickly assessed the situation. They organized teams to redirect the flow, clear debris, and reinforce banks. Each action was creative and collaborative. When one method failed, they tried another, learning instantly from mistakes. Zyra realized that humans had an almost unique form of resilience. Other species relied on instinct or brute force. Humans relied on observation, analysis, cooperation, and emotional motivation. Their ability to remain calm under pressure and adjust strategies in real time was astonishing. She decided to raise the stakes further. Using her holographic technology, she simulated a fire spreading through a nearby forest, threatening food supplies and shelters. The humans reacted immediately, forming human chains to carry water, constructing barriers, and evacuating non-essential items. Mara coordinated with patience and clarity, while Liam invented new methods to extinguish flames using minimal resources. The humans' adaptability amazed Zyra. They improvised using natural materials, learned from failed attempts, and encouraged one another throughout the process. No panic, no fear, only action, collaboration, and determination. Zyra's SCI pulsed with intensity, signaling levels of ingenuity and resilience she had never measured before. By late afternoon, Zyra decided to introduce her final test for the day. A simulated collapse of the main water channel threatened the village's supply. Humans gathered quickly, discussing strategies and dividing responsibilities. One group reinforced the banks, another redirected water using improvised canals, and a third group monitored potential weak points. Mara worked tirelessly, adjusting plans as new obstacles arose. Liam coordinated with precision, constantly testing and modifying structures. Children assisted where they could, learning from observation and small tasks. Zyra realized that humans had a unique learning system, where observation, experience, and collaboration created rapid skill acquisition across generations. The water channel survived and the village remained safe. The humans cheered, exhausted but proud. Zyra descended carefully, her eyes scanning the group. "You did exceptionally well," she said. "Every action was your own. I only observed." Mara smiled, wiping sweat from her brow. "Feels like we can handle anything now. We just work together and figure it out." Liam nodded in agreement. "We didn't know what was coming, but we adapted. That's what humans do." Zyra considered their words. Humans did not think of themselves as extraordinary. They believed in collaboration, creativity, and perseverance because it was natural to them. And yet these traits, combined with intelligence and emotional depth, created a species capable of achieving the impossible. Over the next few days, Zyra continued her tests, gradually introducing more complex scenarios. She simulated environmental hazards, technical failures, and unexpected obstacles. Each time, the humans adapted, solved problems, and maintained cooperation. Through these tests, Zyra noticed patterns. Humans relied on three key strategies: observation and analysis. They carefully studied the situation before acting. Collaboration and delegation. They divided tasks based on ability and shared knowledge freely. Creativity and innovation. When standard methods failed, they invented new solutions on the spot. No other species Zyra had studied displayed this combination consistently. The SCI confirmed her observations. Humans were anomalous and extraordinary. One evening, after a particularly complex simulation involving fire, flooding, and structural collapse, Zyra approached Mara and Liam. "You are remarkable," she said. "I have observed countless species, but none have displayed the level of adaptability, creativity, and cooperation that you have. Your species has potential beyond my initial predictions." Mara laughed softly. "We're just people. We do what we need to survive. That's all." Zyra shook her head. "No, you do much more than survive. You learn, adapt, innovate, and inspire one another. That is strength beyond any physical or technological measure." Liam looked thoughtful. "I guess we've always figured that working together helps everyone. We just never thought it was special." "Special?" Zyra repeated. "Yes, by my standards, by the galaxy's standards, it is exceptional." The humans seemed humbled, unaware of the larger significance of their actions. Zyra realized that their humility and simplicity were as important as their intelligence and resilience. It allowed them to focus on solutions, learn from failures, and trust one another. As night fell, Zyra floated above the village, reflecting on what she had witnessed. Humans had survived simulated crises, solved impossible problems, and maintained unity throughout. They had demonstrated qualities that could reshape the understanding of strength and intelligence in the galaxy. Her SCI pulsed steadily, confirming her realization. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and collaborators. They were unpredictable and extraordinary. And Zyra understood something critical. If these humans were allowed to grow and interact with the wider galaxy, they could change the course of civilizations. For the first time in her career, Zyra felt a mixture of awe, excitement, and respect. She had not expected to find anything remarkable on Terra 7. Instead, she had discovered a species that defied every assumption about fragility, strength, and potential. Floating silently above the sleeping village, Zyra made a decision. Tomorrow she would take the next step: closer interaction, direct engagement, and deeper study. She would need to build trust, learn from them, and observe how they responded to guidance without interference. The humans slept peacefully beneath the stars, unaware that they had passed tests that would challenge even the most advanced species in the galaxy. Zyra knew that her mission was no longer simply observation. It had become a partnership of learning, where the humans' ingenuity and resilience would teach her as much as she hoped to teach them. And for the first time, Zyra truly understood the meaning of the SCI's activation. Humans were not just unusual. They were a force capable of extraordinary achievements, limited only by the boundaries they chose to push themselves. As the stars glittered overhead, Zyra realized that the real discovery was just beginning. Humans had passed her tests, but the galaxy had yet to see the full measure of their potential. And Zyra would be there, watching, learning, and preparing for what came next. The first light of dawn spread across Terra 7, casting soft shadows on the village. Zyra floated above, her cloak fluttering slightly in the morning breeze. After days of observation, testing, and subtle interaction, she had gathered more data than she had in years of studying countless species across the galaxy. Yet the humans below continued to surprise her. Every movement, every choice, every collaboration confirmed what she already suspected. Humans were exceptional. Today, Zyra had a plan. She would reveal herself fully, not as a distant observer but as a participant in their world. It was a delicate task. Humans were curious but cautious. She could not frighten them, nor could she underestimate the impact her presence might have. But she had decided it was time to bridge the gap, to interact and learn in ways that pure observation could not achieve. Descending into the central square of the village, Zyra became visible to all. She kept her movements calm and deliberate, her hands open to show no threat. The humans paused, staring with a mixture of awe, confusion, and curiosity. Children stopped playing, adults stopped working, and even Mara and Liam looked up with widened eyes. "Do not be afraid," Zyra said softly, projecting her voice clearly. "I am not here to harm you. I come in peace. I wish to understand your species and perhaps to learn from you." Mara stepped forward cautiously. "You talk like us?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I have learned your language," Zyra replied. "I have observed, I have listened, and I have understood. I wish to speak with you directly now." A hush fell over the village. Zyra's presence was unlike anything the humans had encountered. She did not resemble any creature from their stories or imagination. Her eyes were violet, her form tall and slender, her movements smooth and deliberate. And yet, despite her alien appearance, there was something reassuring in the calm confidence she radiated. Liam took a tentative step forward. "Why? Why are you here?" "I came to observe," Zyra said, "to study your species. But now I see that observation alone is not enough. Your abilities, your creativity, and your resilience are beyond what I expected. I must understand you fully, and I wish to interact with you openly." The humans whispered among themselves, exchanging puzzled glances. Trust was not immediate, but Zyra's presence was calm, non-threatening, and patient. Slowly, the villagers began to approach, Mara and Liam leading the way. Over the next hours, Zyra engaged directly with the humans. She asked questions about their daily lives, their challenges, and their dreams. Mara explained the methods humans used to build, repair, and cooperate. Liam demonstrated problem-solving techniques that had evolved over generations. Children showed how they learned through play, observation, and trial and error. Zyra recorded every detail, fascinated by the humans' ingenuity and emotional depth. What struck her most was not their physical abilities. They were small, fragile, and unarmed, but their unpredictable creativity, resilience, and cooperation. They could take the simplest materials and invent solutions to complex problems. They could fail repeatedly, yet each failure became a lesson, not a defeat. "You are extraordinary," Zyra said finally, addressing Mara and Liam directly. "I have studied thousands of species, yet none have demonstrated the combination of intelligence, resilience, and emotional depth that your species possesses." Mara looked down, a small smile playing on her lips. "We're just people. We do what we must to live." "No," Zyra replied, shaking her head. "You do much more. You innovate, you adapt, you collaborate, and you teach one another in ways that create strength far beyond the physical. Your species could shape entire worlds if given the opportunity." The humans listened, intrigued but humble. They did not boast. They had not thought of themselves as exceptional. And yet, Zyra's words confirmed what her SCI had been signaling from the first touch. Humans were anomalous, unique, and remarkable. In the following days, Zyra worked closely with the humans, observing their methods more deeply and offering subtle guidance without interference. She introduced harmless exercises designed to test their coordination, problem-solving, and creativity. Each challenge was met with solutions that surpassed her expectations. One afternoon, Zyra presented a more complex scenario. She simulated a sudden earthquake, causing minor structural collapses in the village. Humans sprang into action immediately. Mara organized teams to rebuild and reinforce structures. Liam improvised tools to stabilize buildings. Children assisted by gathering smaller materials and delivering them where needed. Every task was completed efficiently, with humans learning from one another in real time. Zyra's SCI pulsed furiously. No other species had responded to simulated crises with such coordinated ingenuity. Humans were not simply reacting, they were predicting, adapting, and teaching simultaneously. When the exercise ended, Mara and Liam were exhausted but exhilarated. "It felt like we could handle anything," Mara said. "We worked together and solved problems we didn't even expect." "You did," Zyra replied, smiling, "and that is what makes your species extraordinary. Not strength, not size, not weapons, but creativity, resilience, and cooperation." The humans began to understand the significance of their abilities. Zyra explained that in the galaxy, many species underestimated others based on appearance or physical strength alone. Humans, small and fragile, could easily be overlooked. Yet their adaptability, ingenuity, and emotional intelligence made them unpredictable and capable of extraordinary achievements. As days passed, Zyra grew closer to the humans. She shared knowledge about the wider galaxy, explaining basic principles of science and engineering without revealing dangerous information. In turn, humans taught her about problem-solving in limited conditions, improvisation, and collaboration. The exchange of knowledge was unlike anything Zyra had experienced. Humans were not only resilient but also fast learners, absorbing concepts and applying them in innovative ways. One evening, Zyra and Mara walked to the edge of the village, overlooking the forest. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, and the quiet of the evening was comforting. "You seem different from the others you study," Mara said softly. "I have studied countless species," Zyra replied, "but none have shown what your species shows. Strength is measured in ways my people understand: physical, technological, and social influence. But humans have a kind of strength that is rare, unpredictable, adaptable, and limitless in potential." Mara nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "I guess we just try to survive, to help each other along the way. That's what matters." "Exactly," Zyra said, "and that is why you are extraordinary. Your potential could reshape the understanding of life in the galaxy." That night, Zyra returned to her craft, reflecting on what she had learned. Humans had passed every test, solved every challenge, and adapted to every scenario she had created. They had demonstrated intelligence, creativity, resilience, and emotional depth. But beyond that, they had humility, cooperation, and a drive to improve that no other species she had studied possessed. She realized something profound. Humans were not just another species. They were a force capable of shaping worlds, influencing civilizations, and redefining the meaning of strength in the galaxy. The SCI on her wrist glowed steadily, signaling recognition, awe, and respect. The next morning, Zyra decided to report her findings to her superiors. She transmitted detailed records, videos, and analyses. Her report emphasized what she had observed. Humans were extraordinary, capable of innovation, adaptation, and collaboration on levels unseen elsewhere. She recommended careful consideration in future interactions with them, highlighting both their potential and their unpredictability. After transmitting the report, Zyra returned to the village. Mara and Liam were curious. Did they understand?" Mara asked. "Yes," Zyra replied. "They now know what I have discovered. Your species is exceptional. They will watch, and perhaps one day they will learn from you." The humans smiled, humbled but proud. They had never thought of themselves in such a way, and yet the truth was undeniable. They were capable, resilient, and remarkable. In the weeks that followed, Zyra continued to engage with humans. She shared knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and problem-solving in ways that complemented their natural abilities. She learned from them as much as they learned from her. Together, they explored solutions to small problems, tested new methods, and strengthened the village. One day, as Zyra and the humans watched a human-engineered glider soar through the sky, She felt a sense of awe and satisfaction. The SCI on her wrist pulsed steadily, confirming the truth. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, collaborators, and creators. Their potential was limitless, bounded only by their imagination and determination. Zyra knew that the galaxy had yet to see the full measure of humanity's abilities. But she also knew that she had witnessed the dawn of something remarkable, a species capable of changing the way civilizations thought about strength, resilience, and intelligence. As the sun set, casting golden light across the village, Zyra stood beside Mara and Liam. She looked at the humans around her, children learning, adults building, and families sharing stories, and realized that her mission had transformed. She was no longer a distant observer. She was a witness to the rise of a species destined for greatness. And in that moment, Zyra understood the true meaning of the SCI's activation. Humans were not ordinary. They were extraordinary, unpredictable, and capable of shaping the future of the galaxy. The story of humanity was just beginning, and Zyra knew she would be there, observing, learning, and perhaps, one day, standing alongside them as they reached for the stars.